North Korea's fired a ballistic missile over Japan, North Korea.
A familiar name to many, with known realities to only a few.
Even if production nuclear missile war. North Korea.
Home to countless stories ready to be told to those who seek them. A society with unique features, united under one flag, guided by one ideology. It plays its own music and narrates its stories. Thirsty for progress, faced with challenges. I'll take you to the heart of it all. My journey begins in a van with a patriotic driver. We were warned not to take photos of just everything we see. I try to stick to the rules while attracted to the strong identity of the city. On the entrance of every public place, big pictures or statues of the country's leaders are very hard to miss. To show respect, people bow down 90 degrees or some a bit less, but the concept is the same. Citizen or not, paying tribute to the leaders is an out-of-question routine. There is nothing more sacred to these people than their leaders. To them, the leaders are saviors of the nation against hostile forces, mainly the US. The leader is, and his predecessors were, like fathers whose children's welfare is their number one priority. Most of the things that the leader touches or uses upon his entrance to places such as factories or cultural centers will be held separately and cherished by the people in charge there. A 140 kilometers north of Pyongyang, at the heart of green forests in iconic Myohyang mountain, North Koreans have built two architectural feats. Inside the two buildings, there are hundreds of rooms covered with gifts given to the current and former leaders of the country. I'm not an expert to come up with a precise value, but inside, I've seen gifts roughly worth millions of dollars, gemstones the size of a big rock as a sign of respect to the leaders. We were not allowed to film them, unfortunately. There's something else all North Koreans agree upon. From kids to adults, worker to intellectual, the US is the main enemy.
After this landing, made yesterday, these planes are now ranging far and wide over North Korea.
A threat to peace and their independence. They hold the 1950 to 53 Korean War as a proof to their belief. The war had no ending and has been suspended by an armistice signed in 1953. North Korea believes that the US started the war and the armistice means defeat for the US. Direct military hardware are what they take pride in. It reminds them of their soldiers' valor and sacrifices. This old war veteran narrates his memories of those days to younger generations. A few meters away, the American spy ship Pueblo, captured 15 years after the signing of armistice agreement, is put on display as a sign of Washington's long-time willingness to infiltrate North Korea.
So here, this is the U.S. armed spaceship Pueblo. So this Pueblo was built in 1944 and used as a transportation ship. And after that, in 1966, it modified as armed spaceship equipped with modern facilities equipment. So here, this Pueblo was captured on January the 23rd, 1968, in the East Silver country near Wonsan. So at the time of capture, there were 6 officers and 77 soldiers in this Pueblo. So there were total 83 members. But during the battle, 1 enemy was killed and 3 enemies were wounded. And we are sent them back after 11 months, after we received a letter of apology from the U.S. government.
And eventually a panoramic painting narrating the story of the Korean War with special effects summed up our visit to the Fatherland Liberation Museum. "90 kilometers to the south of Pyongyang. This is Sinchon County. The guide says 35,000 people were massacred in 52 days. These 2 hills are the graves of those mothers and kids who were brutally murdered a few meters away in these 2 dark rooms. Mothers and kids were separated, starved, and finally burned. They were in their 70s, but they looked older than their actual age. The old men's wrinkled faces were good narrators of their story. Hugh Sang-won tells me about the extent of his hardships as he explains the story behind the photos on the wall of the room that witnessed the horrible death of 102 other kids.
그때 폭격에 그러니까 51년
I was 5 years old when the incident happened, and I still remember those days. Most of the children were starved or frozen to death. I survived because I was there in that corner where there was a blanket, so I covered myself with that blanket. At the time, the U.S. Army poured petroleum in the center of the room, but the flames did not reach my body.
구석에 가 있었습니다. 저 구석에. 예.
I also survived the cold weather by covering myself with that same blanket. To leave no trace of their atrocities, the Americans bombed the 2 buildings. But how can they wipe out the memories from our hearts and minds? There are no ways.
저기서 창고 가운데서 여기서
150 kilometers to the south of Sinchon County, soldiers are patrolling the borderline separating the 2 Koreas. American soldiers, alongside their South Korean counterparts, guard the line that separates the 2 countries. Every move I make is under the direct supervision of our soldier companions. Every frame is watched by the guards. For decades, North Korean soldiers have been standing a few meters far from the American and South Koreans, keeping a close eye on each other's moves. I walked in the room where American and North Koreans sat down face to face in 1953 and negotiated a peace deal that has never been reached. We're here at a time when Donald Trump's UN General Assembly's statement pledging the total annihilation of North Korea as the only means of defense is perceived as a declaration of war. I asked Lieutenant Colonel Pam Jong-sin about how he would react to the speech.
I've heard what Trump said in the UN General Assembly. I'm fully determined to rush into South Korea or the US to end the life of this monster if my respected leader gives me the order. He is out of his mind and he needs to be dealt with.
His feelings towards the US is shared by many. I joined a number of parents sitting silently under the shadow of a tree. They were holding the pictures of their sons who had recently joined the army.
My son is a soldier at the moment. This is what I wanted him to become since he was a little kid. I do miss him at times, but that doesn't matter as long as he serves his great purpose.
They're just a couple out of an ocean of parents with the same mindset. In the capital, Pyongyang, life goes on in its ordinary form. They live their normal lives, regardless of all the tensions in politics. They're focused on working hard to build their country. That's what their leaders want them to be like. This is part of a mentality that has its roots in a philosophy called Zutze, which literally means self-reliance. It is the legacy of former leader Kim Il-sung, also referred to as the eternal president of the country. The philosophy is now matured into an expansive ideology.
So when you look at the body has been divided into tiers, right? So the front and the other sides of the body have 18 tiers respectively and 17 tiers each on the both sides. So 18, 17, 18, 17. When you add up all these figures, then you can get 70 in all, which means the 70th birthday of the president. And you can see the three-person group statue here. So these three persons are worker. So worker is standing in the middle, and lady represents farmer, and man in the right is intellectual. So worker, farmer, and intellectual are the main components of the Workers' Party of Korea. That's why they're holding up the symbol of the party. And the books they're carrying are the classic works of the President Kim Il-sung. So the statue shows our people's resolve to carry forward the great leaders' cause under the leadership of the Workers' Party of Korea.
Zutze has become an integral part of the North Korean lifestyle, integrated deep into their culture, an indispensable part of almost all aspects of their livelihoods.
And they're always doing something.
And today it has been challenged by an economy under heavy sanctions imposed by the US and some international organizations. They say the more sanctions they impose, the harder they work to compensate for the lost. I had the chance to sit with a number of journalists seeking their ideas regarding the country's economy and its driving force.
People see following this ideology as their only way to achieve prosperity. Juche is a well-established political philosophy that urges nationwide movement towards building a better future for the country. It's the driving force behind our advancements.
미국의 극악한 대조선 독대시 정책과 동시에 그를 추호도 용납하지 않으려는 우리 당과 국가, 군대와 인민의 그 강경한 그 입장과 의지를
The country's health sector has been hit hard as a result of years of restrictions. Everything is clean inside the hospitals in Pyongyang. They have learned to well preserve what they have. In this maternity hospital inside the capital, the sounds of infants were everywhere. The government insists on greater population growth rates. It stands at 0.5%. To get bigger numbers, the parents with triplets or quads are given a silver knife and a golden ring for their service. These women grapple with the same problems other women in the world do. WHO's reports in 2014 indicated that 1.12% of the mortalities in North Korea were caused by breast cancer. Hospital officials say thanks to Tutsi ideology, they have been able to employ traditional means of treatment and greatly reduce the number of deaths caused by breast cancer.
I have a bit of fever. Thank you. Oh, the nurse. Of course. Thank you so much. 고맙습니다.
Music and dance are essential elements of their education. The emphasis is so much, they have turned into outstanding performance, leaving the audience in amazement. The emphasis is so much, they have turned into outstanding performers, leaving the audience in total amazement.
행복한 나라 세상에 제일 좋은 내 나라 여기서 내가 산다 여기서 내가 산다
On the streets, many young people are busy playing team sports in certain spots. Some say that our leader wants us to exercise, to stay strong and healthy. Weak people cannot stand against enemies. They say it's the reason why many ride bikes. The government heavily restricts private car ownership. After all, no matter how slow they travel, punctuality is always maintained. Public transportation plays a key role here. The two metro lines in Pyongyang are used by 400,000 to 600,000 people on a daily basis. These people, like many others around the world, have to go through some boring routines. The difference is, they don't complain. They have accepted their fates. They believe that every one of them is a tiny gear that plays a role in getting the wheels of the community spinning. It seems that it doesn't matter to them whether they are seen or not. However, their absence could hinder the progression of the most unique socialist system on the planet.